Patreon Q&A number 58. I want to thank all 77 of my incredible patrons. Guys, thank you so much for your continued support and your increased patronage and increased interest in the Q&A. It's really amazing, and I can't thank you enough. To everyone else listening, there's going to be spoilers in these questions and answers, so tread carefully up to this point. Chance asks, hey Shonen, if the entire One Punch Man universe went against Saitama, could they stop him or defeat him, or would Saitama defeat everyone trying his hardest? So this is a great question, and I think it might not be as clear-cut as you might think, so hear me out. So I feel like if there was like a meeting of the minds, we've had like, let's say, Dr. Genus, who I feel is the most intelligent character, regardless of his field of expertise. We've got him, we've got Bafoy, Child Emperor, and let's just throw Kuseno in there because he's pretty smart too. We can't add Fukugao because he's dead, he's gone, so... I feel like if they came together, they could probably brainstorm something to overcome Saitama. Maybe not defeat him. Maybe not like kill him or destroy him or anything like that, but I think they could stop him if they needed to. Because Genus has the best understanding of Saitama than anyone else in the series. And if he adds that intellect with like the game plan and the strategy and the arsenal and the supply of Bafoy and Child Emperor and maybe Kuseno too, I feel like they could probably come up with something if they had enough prep time. I mean, why not? I feel like it would probably be similar to like Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, and Shuri in the MCU all coming together and brainstorming and figuring out something. Now, just brute force, it's probably not going to be enough. And if you're saying the entire universe, we got to throw God in there too. He's going to be a part of that. We don't know God's full capabilities yet, but we know that he can give powers to people. So let's just say God just went full out and just gave the entire Hero Association, Homeless Emperor, Vaccine Man powers. That's going to be pretty formidable still. Like if we just had all 500 or 300 or how many of them are, just all carpet bombing Saitama at once. I don't even know if that's still enough. And then we have Blast in there, and we have the full arsenal of Metal Knight and Drive Knight, the organization, everybody. That's probably still not enough. I'm sure just one serious punch would take out 99% of them. But also Saitama's not going to be able to fight at his full strength because he's going to destroy the Earth if he does that, and that's going to be a detriment to him. Or at least so far it seems like he probably can't survive in space, given that he needed to hold his breath. Can he hold his breath forever? Maybe. I know something like that seems possible with Saitama. I mean, why not? But he probably needs Earth to survive, and he's not going to destroy it just so he can win. And also, Saitama is altruistic. He's not a psychopath or anything like that, so he's not going to go needlessly out of his way to cause destruction or kill anyone. Unless you just want to throw that scenario out of the window, and it's just in this particular scenario, he's just evil, and he's just going all out. Well, then it's a different story. But if we're, like, being realistic to the story, I feel like given Saitama's temperament, his altruistic qualities, I feel like if the meeting of the minds came together and they had enough time, I feel like they could probably figure out something to, hinder Saitama. Or at least just nullify him and put him inside some kind of stasis or something like that. I don't think they're going to be able to, like, brute force defeat him, but they could overcome him one way or another. I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that. Free-Tshirts asks, hey Shonen, so I know Orochi kind of died and all when Saitama killed him, but I just don't think it was super cool how Orochi went out. But maybe it isn't. I mean, Orochi is 100% dead, that's for sure. If only there was a character in the series who could bring back dead people. Oh wait, that's Phoenix Man. Here's a theory I have. Now let's say, what if by some miracle that Phoenix Man can still absorb energy and is still alive? Perhaps maybe a missile from Homeless Emperor or something like that, but he gets a small bit of energy back. So he wanders around, finds Orochi, and uses all of that he has to revive him. Then we get to see Orochi has his final stand one last time. I know it's probably not going to happen, but I just wish Orochi got a little more attention. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much, man. Hey, thank you, Free-Tshirts. So, Phoenix Man at this point, I don't think he's coming back. And that's because he's just had so many chances at this point. And it got a little repetitive and it got a little redundant, just in my opinion. And I feel like Murata and one maybe regret a little bit the path that they chose with him, because given how long it took to get through that fight and given the redraw and the replanning of the sequences and whatnot, I feel like they probably don't want to bring him back. Now, is it possible that your scenario could happen? Most definitely. I don't think it's too outrageous to think that something like that can happen. But also, given that Phoenix Man's suit is completely destroyed and he's all in likelihood dead. I mean, he did get stabbed in the chest cavity and he started Alka-Seltzering from the mouth. I don't think he's going to come back. Even if a random stray energy sphere from Homeless Emperor made his way to Phoenix Man, I just don't think that's probably going to be enough to revive him. Even if it does, like, bring him back, like, defibrillator style, he's still not going to have his suit. Now, can his suit, like, form back together? Probably. But also, it's like, is it going to come back in the Brilliant Eagle form? Because we saw that, like, when he was trying to pull off his own suit to get, you know, away from the Ticklebug thing, he kind of, like, de-evolved. Like, he went, like, when Child Emperor was stomping on his cashews, he, like, de-evolved back into his regular resurrected form. Now, either that was a mistake by Murata, I don't think it was. I think he, like, de-evolved and probably lost the Brilliant Eagle or the Diamond Eagle form that he had. So it's really up in the air if he still has that. But if he did, if this scenario played out, that would be incredible. And for sure, he would probably go out and look for Orochi and use his King Awakening Light on him, because that would be the most pragmatic move. And then we would get to see, like you said, Orochi's one last stand. But he wouldn't be like normal Orochi. He'd be like a zombie Orochi. It would be just like how we saw Hellfire and Gale. And it's really debatable how powerful they really were in that zombified state. But we still would see Orochi nonetheless. But I feel like he would be kind of nerfed. Do I think Orochi has a chance of coming back? For sure. If you haven't seen my video, please check it out. I made an in-depth video on the possibility of Orochi coming back, and it's not just all like wild speculation. There is some kind of evidence to support it. So yeah, check that out. But as for this, it would be cool if it happened, but I just don't think it's likely that Phoenix Man is going to be coming back. Brian asks, what's up, man? Thanks for making the week better with consistent uploads. Hey, I'm happy to help any way I can, Brian, especially with my content. You make my week better with your support, so thank you. My first question for you this week is regarding My Hero. Who do you think are the best Class 1B characters based off of personality and quirk? I only watched the anime, so no spoilers if you can. Ain't no problem. And it's really too bad that 1B hasn't really been focused on that much, at least so far as the anime has caught up to it. But they will be in Season 5, so look out for that if you're more interested in 1B getting some serious development. But for now, I'll say Tetsu. I really like him. He's one of my favorite characters, actually. And also, you know, he's the one that I can really talk about the most because he's had the most spotlight, besides Monoma and Kendo, and I like them as well. But Tetsu, man, he's just a really cool character, a really great analog to Kirishima. I actually like him even more than Kirishima. I just like his temperament, I like his quirk, and I just like his overall attitude. Like, he's just like, I don't know, just like a better version of Kirishima, honestly. Just in my opinion, at least. And Monoma, you love to hate him. I love those type of characters, and I think he's well done. I like his, like, goofy attitude. It comes more so comical in the anime than it does in the manga, in my opinion. And then Kendo, she's the class representative. I like the big sister vibe. They actually say that, but she's like that of the class. And how she's always keeping Monoma in check, and she's always, like, giving guidance to the other students. She's, like, even better than Ida in that way, kind of. And then, other than that, I really like Hononuki. He's the guy that has, like, no lips. He has, like, the skull teeth, kind of. He has a very interesting design. I like it. And his quirk, the softening quirk, very cool. But if you like, look back into the flashback that Todoroki has in the provisional license arc when he's thinking about his time with Yaorashi during the recommendation exam that they had, Hononuki's there. So that's showing us that Hononuki is also a recommended student. So that's pretty interesting. My second question is, have you ever watched Inuyashiki? And if so, what do you think of it? Thanks. So I haven't heard of this. I haven't seen it. So I looked up some trailers and I looked up some clips, regrettably, on YouTube. And wow, this show's quite intense. Very dark. I just saw a couple of those trailers and it led me down the rabbit hole of seeing that one clip of the villain, I suppose, Shishigami or whatever his name was, and he kills that entire family. Sorry for spoilers in case of anyone, but wow, that was super dark, super macabre. I used to be into that type of stuff a few years ago, but I've kind of, like, gotten out of, like, that kind of, that shocking, macabre, like, dark stuff. So it doesn't really sit that well with me anymore. It doesn't bother me anything. I'll definitely watch it, but I won't go out of my way or I won't look for it. So the animation is amazing. It was fantastically animated, and it looked like it had good direction as well, and a pretty interesting story, you know, with the android dynamic, but I probably will not watch this show. I don't even watch shows like Black Mirror or stuff like that, just because, I don't know, that kind of stuff just doesn't interest me anymore. Jordan asks, hey Shonen, who in the One Piece story right now do you think could go 1v1 or even defeat Akainu? From everything we've seen with him going toe-to-toe with Whitebeard, punching 2 holes in him and blowing half his face off, then also fighting for 10 days with another admiral, then coming out as the fleet admiral, I don't see many people being able to even close to injuring him, let alone killing the man. Let me know what you think. Love and appreciate the content, man. You're the GOAT. Hey, thank you, Jordan. I really appreciate that. So at this point, I only really see the Yonko, maybe Kizaru, and Dragon being able to compete with Akainu. Because he's just too ridiculous. Like, even in his performance with Marineford against Whitebeard, like you were talking about, I think that proved that he's on the Yonko level. And I think that proved that a lot of the Admirals are. Not a lot, but like Aokiji and Kizaru are probably around that level too. Like, a lot of people think that just because of how Whitebeard did against them, that there's like a huge discrepancy between Admiral and Yonko, or that there's a clear difference. I don't think it's that clear. I think they're more or less parallel. I mean, of course, not all of them are created equal. There is differences, as we have seen, but I think Akainu is for sure on that level of power. And Whitebeard was ultra powerful. I mean, he had the second highest bounty ever, or at least it was implied that he did. So, given that, I mean, it shows that even when he was super old and, you know, ill, he was still ultra powerful and could probably take almost anyone. So, could Kizaru go against him? Arguably. It's kind of debatable whether he was like the weakest of the original three, or at least the original three that we were introduced to in the story. But other than that, definitely Kaido could go against him. Big Mom could definitely go against him. Defeating him, maybe it's arguable. Probably Kaido could defeat him. I mean, you know, although we haven't seen the full potential of Kaido, but given his projected potential, I feel like he'd probably take him on. I'm sure Shanks could probably defeat him, or at least injure him. And we saw that he could just straight up block Akainu's Magma Fist with his sword, one-handed. And also all of the respect that Shanks has. I think it's safe to say that he could probably take Akainu, or at least injure him at the very minimum. And then Blackbeard for sure could do something to Akainu. I mean, he has the Yami Yami no Mi and the Guruguru no Mi, and he's pretty durable. So he could definitely compete against him, but defeating him is a different story. Akainu will probably get the best of him, at least from what we've seen so far. I'm sure Blackbeard has increased a lot in power. And then Dragon, there's all speculation with him. We don't even fully understand what his fruit is yet, but like I said, he's probably Yonko level, just given his status in the series. I think it's more likely that he's like there, but pretty much everyone else doesn't seem to have a good chance against him. He's a little too ridiculous. And then, of course, we could just speculate like Imu-sama, whatever his power, he or she's power is. I'm sure it could take kind of maybe. But other than that, he's in that very, very, very top tier where it doesn't really seem like anyone else can go against him, at least current. Legandaryus asks, hey Shonen, I have an odd question. I was wondering if you would ever play video games with Patreon users for fun in private lobbies, or just have fun for a few hours. Yeah, definitely, Legandaryus. I'd be totally down to do that. It's just the thing is that I'm not really too active in games. Like, I hardly play games that much, so I don't really, just would have the time to do that. But the thing is that I when games come around that really interest me, that's when I'll play them. Like, for example, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Super excited for that game. I'm going to play the hell out of that. And if you guys are playing that, I'll gladly play with you, especially now that we have the option of doing that rather than just versus battle, which has always been an option of that game. We can like play together and do raid battles and stuff, and I'd love to do that with you guys for sure. I actually just bought my Switch yesterday on Amazon in preparation for it coming out in 2 weeks now, almost 3 weeks. I didn't even have a Switch before that, so that shows you how excited I am for this game. But it just went I'm not very active in games. Like, it needs to be something that interests me. Like, for example, besides Pokemon Sword and Shield, Cyberpunk 2077, that has me hella hyped. I'm going to be playing that for sure when it comes out in April. And then after that, I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then whenever the One Punch Man game comes out, I think that comes out January, something like that. I'm going to play that. And that's something that I would really like to play with you guys. I've actually played with, not a Patreon user, but when I was streaming Jump Force earlier this year, somebody in the chat wanted to play with me, and I played with him, and it was pretty fun. He beat me, and then he donated to me, which is pretty fun. So yeah, I would totally be down to do that with you guys. Also, have you played any DS games that no one else has played? For me, it was Fossil Fighters and Fossil Fighters Champions, its sequel. I also do not play the newest version of these games on the 3DS, as it's a terrible end to the trilogy. That is a good question. Have you ever played a disappointing trilogy before? So, I don't really have any deep-cut DS games. Like I said, I'm really surface when it comes to video games. So for DS, I really only played Pokemon. And I think, on the DS, it was like Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, right? And then maybe Black and White was on there too. So I mainly just played those games. But I did look up the Fossil Fighters games, and it looks super interesting. And it'd be something I would have been interested in at that time for sure. It's too bad that it had a disappointing trilogy. But as for me playing a disappointing trilogy, not really. The closest thing was maybe Mass Effect. But even that didn't rub me the wrong way, or at least as much as it did everyone else. Like, the ending was kind of weak for sure, but the whole game as an experience, I really enjoyed it. But other than that, I don't really remember having any bad experiences with trilogies, at least off the top of my mind. Martin asks, "Hi Shonen, been watching your content for a while now, and you're probably one of my faves in regards to One Punch Man content." Hey, thank you so much, Martin. I really appreciate that. Been wanting to ask a few questions for a while now, and finally took the plunge. One of Zombie Man's hailed feats is beating Carnage Kabuto in the VGS Battle Simulator after Carnage Kabuto goes out of Carnage mode and is helpless. My question is, would Zombie Man have been able to defeat Carnage Kabuto if he didn't go into Carnage mode? It just seems to me that the energy it would take Carnage Kabuto to make meat paste out of Zombie Man or just dodge him would be absolutely minimal, and with no to little drain on stamina. Carnage mode is indeed powerful, but the time limit / stamina drawbacks suit Zombie Man's War of Attrition tactic strategy. Remove that, and I have a hard time seeing Zombie Man doing anything to Carnage Kabuto. So this is a good question, and I feel like Carnage Kabuto without his Carnage mode is definitely weaker. I mean, I think that goes without saying. So that means that his durability, his power, his durability is going down, the damage that he's going to be receiving from Zombie Man is going to be going up, and the damage that he's going to be dealing to Zombie Man, considering that he doesn't have that strength that Carnage mode was, is going down. Now, is he still wrecking Zombie Man? For sure. But given the parameters of the VGS, I feel like Zombie Man would still get the job done here. He's probably still going to gas out Carnage Kabuto, because also, like, in the data book, it says one of Zombie Man's, like, main feats that made him famous was he defeated a monster after fighting him for, like, I think it was like 120 hours or something like that. I fought him for like a week or something like that. So I'm sure that he could still gas out Carnage Kabuto. Now, granted, this is in the VGS, and I've always had a hard time believing that this was going to happen in reality, because Carnage Kabuto was also hailed as being very smart. And we know that, the VGS is only going off of Genos' memory, like what he captured in the data and all that, and he definitely didn't capture Carnage Kabuto's intelligence. So I feel like if this were to happen in reality, Carnage Kabuto would probably take care of Zombie Man, not even have to go into his Carnage mode. But if he did, he'd probably take care of him either way. Because, like, there's got to be a way to take care of Zombie Man. And I know that one said in an interview that if you turn him to mincemeat, he'll die, but that was a long time ago, and it directly conflicts with what Pure Blood said in the manga. And things have obviously changed. Zombie Man's abilities have changed, so I feel like he's not invincible. And I'm sure Carnage Kabuto could probably take care of him in reality. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like not going into Carnage mode would both help him and hinder him. I don't really think it would change the result, because he would eventually gas him out regardless. It's not like if he's not using Carnage mode, he has unlimited stamina, but he would also be weaker, if that makes sense. I mean, also, like, Pure Blood was just overcoming Zombie Man just as much as he was, but it was just a matter of time before he caught him and got him. I mean, yeah, he is a demon, much weaker than Carnage Kabuto, but I feel like the same thing would happen, at least according to the VGS. If the heroes of the One Punch Man had access to Armament Hockey and Observation Hockey, how effective would the C, B, A, and S-class heroes become on average? Enough to take on a whole new disaster level, or would it be a different between going from low-tier Mysterious Being to a mid-tier Mysterious Being? Thanks, keep up the good work. Hey, thank you for deciding to support me, Martin. So this is a very interesting question. So, if they had Armament and Observation, I feel like everyone would go up. Now, would they be able to take on a whole new disaster level? Arguable. I feel like the A-Class would. The A-Class, I feel like if they had Armament and Observation, they would be able to take on demons at that point. Because before that, it's like they all have to group up. I think it was like the parameter was like 10 A-Class heroes at the minimum to take on a demon. And even then, it's not guaranteed. We saw like the top 3 A-Class heroes, like High Dift, like a mid-demon in Devil Longhair. So if they had the Armament Hockey and the Observation Hockey, they'd be able to take more damage. They'd be able to block more things. Like, for example, like if somebody like Neon were to strike the support team, if they put up Armament Hockey, then they'd be able to defend themselves better. And if they had the Observation, they'd be able to probably see something coming. But, you know, observation hockey is much more difficult to attain and have a good level of it than the armament hockey is. And then, of course, all levels of hockey are not created equal. Some are going to have better than others. So, like, the S-Class, they're going to go way up, especially, like, the more skilled ones. And then it's like, can the monsters learn that, too? I could see somebody like Deep Sea King learning armament hockey and observation hockey, too. And then that kind of evens the playing field. But if it's just the heroes, I feel like the lower class ones are going to go up. They're going to be able to, like, solo wolves and tigers and stuff like that, as before they really weren't able to. And the A-Class are probably going to, like, S-Class level, and then the S-Class are going, like, to all high dragons and above dragons at that point, at least in my opinion. Paxson asks, hey Shonen, hope you've had a good week, man. Every time I post my question, I must be when you're already doing the Q&A. Haha. Sorry about that, Paxson. I try to get it out around a reasonable time on Sunday. Trying to get in a bit faster this time. I know last week you were saying that Awakened Garo defeats Bang, but I'm not so sure. I know Awakened Garo is absurd and would even compete with Boros in terms of strongest. By Bang feels like the martial arts master. And I do think Awakened Garo is way stronger and faster than Bang, but to me it feels like he's engaging Bang as something that he can never truly defeat him in. That being said, I think eventually Garo will win just due to his tenacity and the fact that Bang's age will probably give way first. But if we were just a martial arts fight, no fight to the death, based on who actually lands more blows, I still think I'd give it to Bang in abandonment, of course. Let me know if you think that's a bit far-fetched. And I'm holding Bang in too high regard. Otherwise, okay, so we'll go into that afterwards. So I still think it's just a little too much for Bang to deal with here. Now, granted, his abandonment feats are amazing. You know, him one-shotting Fuhrer Ugly and Gums, I always say it, and the speed that he showed in it, too. And I'm sure that Awakened Garo could do that, and I'm sure maybe Flashy Flash could maybe do that, given what he did to Hellfire and Gale with the Flashy Slash. But still, it's like, Awakened Garo isn't just using the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. He's using the Monster Calamity Godslayer Fist, which is something entirely different. Also, his level of understanding increases, his reflexes, his ability to analyze and receive data has increased. Like, Flashy Flash, his top speed and his best attack was nothing for Awakened Garo. Like, even in that fragment of a second, he was able to analyze the entire thing that he did and block every single one of his blows. And it's like, if Bang can overcome that, I think that would be giving Bang too much credit. Now, Prime Bang, that would be a different story. And I want to make a video about that one day, but just right now, just given the feats that Awakened Garo has, at least just over Flashy Flash, still seems to be way too much for what Bang can deal with. Even just in a martial arts fight, not to the death. It's just, Awakened Garo, I just feel like is still just too much for him, even in his abandonment form. Maybe the manga will change my mind once we see Bang's further feats by then, but just, I don't know, I just have a hard time thinking that Bang could deal with something like that. I don't think he would get completely wrecked like the other S-Class heroes just immediately. He could compete with him the way that Flashy Flash did, but I think he would maybe do a little bit better than Flashy Flash, but that's about it. I don't think he's going to be able to defeat him or come close to defeating me or anything like that. Otherwise, are you a Star Wars fan? I saw Force Awakens about 20 times in theaters. Last Jedi kind of killed the love for me for a while. I really wasn't a fan of it, but the trailers are new one. Are you looking forward to? Excited for The Emperor. Anyway, take care, man. So I'm like a super casual Star Wars fan. I've seen all of the movies, and I watch them when they come out, but that's about it. I'm not really too much into the extended lore or anything like that. So I've kind of had the opposite effect. The Force Awakens was okay. I didn't think it was great or anything. I thought they played it a little too safe and it was a little too derivative for me. However, I really liked The Last Jedi. It's actually like my favorite Star Wars movie besides Empire Strikes Back. And I know that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but I don't know. I'm just one of those random weird people who actually like that movie. I really enjoyed it. I've watched it multiple times and I think it's great. But then maybe that's because I'm a casual fan and maybe it catered more so to me. I'm not really too excited about the new movie because I think they're going to change it to pander to the audience because of the reception that The Last Jedi got. So they're going to probably play it safe with this one. Make it so that no one's going to be offended by it, which is probably not going to turn out the way that I would like it, and it's going to be restrained. With The Last Jedi, they kind of weren't holding back, and I liked how adventurous they were with it. So but we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll watch it in theaters, maybe not. So, yeah, I mean, the Emperor, I don't know what's going on with him, and I don't want to be spoiled about anything, any leaks or anything, but I'm sure that will add an interesting dynamic to it. Phoenix Man asks, "Greetings, Shonen. It's been a while since I asked something, so I thought I'd come forward with a theory about myself. Do you think it's possible that the voice I could hear whispering to me was God? When I resurrect and use my King Awakening's light ability, it releases a lot of light, and light seems to be a thing that's associated with God, considering the light sphere ability given to Homeless Emperor and Vaccine Man. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Shonen. Take care." Hey, thanks for coming back, Phoenix Man, and I really appreciate your continued support. So, I don't think that the voice is God, and I don't think God is connected to Phoenix Man. Now, don't get me wrong, he could be, and I'm sure we'll find out that God is connected to way more things than what we originally thought. Maybe it goes deeper than just Homeless Emperor and Vaccine Man. But as for this, I feel like this, well, the voice specifically was just a narrative device to give Phoenix Man an excuse to understand his abilities, because he's kind of evolving on the fly and he's understanding things along with us, the audience, you know, because it's all new to him. And rather than him just automatically understanding that he's the King Awakening Light and understanding all of his new abilities, you know, in just like typical like lazy anime writing, they decided to have the voice of the suit tell him this. I think it's like a good way to show that, like, oh, this is how he understands it, other than him just randomly knowing it because just because anime, you know. But also when he's talking and whatnot, he refers to like the perfect union. He says something like that, the bird brain and me. So I think that's showing that like the suit itself is sentient. It's like a being in itself. It's like a monster, but he's also just a part of it. Like he's wearing it, so he's like wearing like a monster suit rather than him and the suit being one person. I know that already kind of goes without saying, but I think that's just showing us like the suit is alive. Like it's not just like a voice or something like that. But also, Phoenix Man doesn't have like the same kind of motive and goal that Homeless Emperor and Vaccine Man did. It seemed like God only wants to associate with people that like hate humanity, hate what they've done to the earth or whatever, and then wants to take them out. Phoenix Man's ultimate goal is more so becoming the Monster King, and he wanted to create his own army, more or less, like with his ability and everything. He wanted to take over Orochi. He wanted to become the strongest. Not so much of a hatred for humanity or anything like that. So that's why I don't think he was given an ability or any kind of power from God. Also, quick versus battle, Monster King Orochi versus Prime All Might. I think that'd be a pretty good battle. So I think Prime All Might would win this one. Yes, you guys can get pissed at me for saying that, but I will make a video about Prime All Might before the year is over. Real One asks, "Hi Shonen, I have a theory on the traitor. I don't think there is a traitor on Zoe. The traitor could be someone else in Wano. I'm not saying it couldn't be a mink, but I believe there are other details around the traitor. Duke and Arashi and Nekomamushi assumed that Jack had a Viver card of a mink, and that was how he found Zoe. But there are really important details about Jack. When Wano was invaded 20 years ago, Jack was a part of the Beast Pirates, but wasn't a commander yet because he was 8 years old. All of the scabbards were at Wano during the invasion. What if Jack fought them during the invasion but lost and remembered who they were, and there was a connection to Wano? Jack would have been investigating the mink, or when the rumor that the scabbard returned, Jack probably realized that they headed and they just need to find a Viver card from a random mink, which is how he knew where the mink were. And this also supports why Jack couldn't be tricked by the minks, because he knew that the Dukes were connected to Wano, but the mink didn't recognize them. If Queen or King went to Zoe instead of Jack, do you think the minks could have been tricked, or could they have recognized them as the scabbards and fighting? Another possibility, could Kishiro, Denjiro, or Orochi gave the Viva card to the Beast Pirates? So I think there is some credence to it not being a mink. Maybe it's somebody else in Wano. I think that's more likely, honestly. Now, I know there's a lot of speculation that it's a mink, that it's Carrot or something like that, but I do think that it's probably one of the scabbards, and I think it's likely to be like Kanjuro or something like that. Kanjuro has the least amount of development on him, and also it's really odd the way that he was treated in Dressrosa. I think that was very peculiar, and I think that might be giving us some insight into it. And also, I think Kanjuro was probably the traitor before the time leap. Like, he was already a traitor back 20 years ago. So I'm not sure if Jack was a part of the Beast Pirates during this time. Maybe I missed some exposition about his backstory, but I don't think we found out when exactly he joined the Beast Pirates, because you know, he's a fishman. So I assume that he was probably on Fishman Island around when he was 8 years old. Just taking a guess. Maybe they did say it, and maybe I just forgot. But regardless, I think that Jack probably got this information from Orochi, or Orochi got it from Kanjuro, or somebody else, like you said, in Wano. Because when he does get to Zou, he's like, you know, I'm here for Raizo. I know he is here. I'm paraphrasing. He says something like that. So it leads us to believe that he definitely knows Raizo is there. He's not taking a guess. And I do think it's likely that he got the Viver card because he just tracked Raizo there, because he knows for sure he's there. So either he got it from the Viver card, or he got it from the information from the trader, which probably isn't a mink. And that's more or less how he got to it. So can the Viver card completely track somebody's location, like pinpoint them directly to where they are, not just giving a general vicinity? Not really sure. Maybe it does. So that kind of foils the whole him having a Viver card thing. But as for King or Queen being tricked by the minks, I think they'd probably just be able to interrogate them fully and just overcome them that way. I don't think any tricking would be involved, honestly, because Queen and King are more powerful than Jack, especially King. So I'm sure that they would overcome them and eventually get the info out of them that way. But as for Kirishiro Denjiro, I think that's kind of foil too. I don't think Kirishiro is Denjiro anymore, unless he changed his face or something like that. But like you're saying, Orochi gave a Viver card. I think it's more likely something like that. Kanjuro's probably involved as well. ShadowBatX asks, hey Shonen, if Drive Knight is considered a major villain in the series, I might have a theory on where and what could happen. While the Neo Heroes arc happens, Drive Knight went into hiding and took the opportunity to collect data from the drone on the civil war between the heroes. This includes the battle between Saitama and Blast. Once the Neo Hero arc ends, this is where I call the organization arc will happen, and Drive Knight, with his army, nearly takes down all of the heroes and possibly all of the S-Class. When all hope is lost, this is where Disaster Level God Metal Knight comes in and takes out the organization before taking on Drive Knight. Then Drive Knight transforms into his ultimate form, which I call GX for fun, and fights full arsenal Metal Knight. Drive Knight gets the upper hand and almost defeats Metal Knight until Saitama shows up and gives him a normal beating. Saitama is promoted to S-Class, and we get a few chapters of him in the S-Class hero until God's ultimatum happens. What do you think? Could this possibly happen? So I do agree with you that there will probably be an organization arc after the Neo Heroes. But he could, I mean, if the Civil War does happen and Saitama versus Blast does happen, it's possible that Drive Knight does collect data from this if he is involved in it. I think we're going to get more insight into the future of Drive Knight with Chapter 120, because whatever happens between him and Genos, I think is going to dictate the projected path for them for the rest of the story, at least Drive Knight's. So if he's around for the Civil War, he will definitely collect data at that point, and he'll have an excuse to be around. But as for Metal Knight showing up to save the day, not sure that's going to happen. I think Metal Knight is more so projected to fight Saitama himself. Now, could he eventually square off with Drive Knight and the organization, and then we see like his full arsenal? Yeah, for sure. I think that can happen too. But I think it's more likely that Metal Knight winds up fighting Saitama before he fights off against Drive Knight. But it is a possibility that all of this happens. But I don't think Saitama will become an S-Class as a result of the Metal Knight and Drive Knight encounter that you're claiming here. I think Saitama will probably become S-Class at the end of the story. Or at least, I don't know, it's hard to say. So maybe he could become like a low-level S-Class guy around this time possibly, but I think it's going to be like full-on like Tier 0 S-Class guy once the whole God thing happens. That's just how I speculated, at least. Last thing, also, what you said last week is, what if Genos doesn't get a big win? He will have a big moment in the Monster Association arc. Couldn't agree more. Can't wait to see Genos literally have Tatsumaki form one attack from Black S and get his arms, legs, and some hair ripped off, and gets kicked by a tin can by Awakened Garo. High five if you agree. Anyway, take care, my friend. So yeah, I think he will get a big moment if he doesn't get a big win. I really hope that they change this, at least, like him getting his arms and everything ripped off. I hope he just goes down in like one battle or something. I mean, yeah, he'll probably get kicked around by Awakened Garo, but I don't know, it just sucks to see Genos just getting destroyed, you know, every arc. So I hope that they change that at least, since they've already changed so much about him, you know. SLURM asks, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well too, SLURM. I was listening to your video at work doing the dishes when a thought came to my mind. Who do you think could have had the best chance of defeating evil natural water other than Saitama? It seems like no one stood a chance. Stay up with the videos, dude. Thank you for your support, SLURM. So, I'm thinking that Genos, so I'm just going to throw him out there immediately, maybe could have a good chance of defeating evil natural water. Now, if he could just somehow hit him and he wasn't moving or something and he went full power blast, like whatever the projected full potential of Daedric Genos is, like if he could pull off like a Millennium Emperor Nova type thing, that might be enough to like take out evil natural water, like disintegrate him, vaporize him or something like that, maybe. But that also being said, then maybe the actual Millennium Emperor Nova from Child Emperor, you know, with Brave Giant, could maybe take out evil natural water. Would it be enough to stop him from regenerating? And also we've seen of Drive Knight due to Neon at the end of chapter 118, that huge explosion thing. Maybe that could take him out, but maybe not. You know, because like he can get big, he can pull the moisture from the atmosphere and regenerate himself, but he can be destroyed essentially. He's not like invincible. So maybe those type of attacks could take him out. But aside from just speculating about that, I think Blast could probably take care of him doing whatever Blast can do. Tatsumaki full power, I think she could probably take care of him, because we saw that when she was weakened, she was able to like blow him away down to like a small little bits of himself. So I'm sure like full power, she could probably condense him, you know, the way that she kind of condensed 100 Eyes Octopus. She could probably condense him into nothingness. Just taking a guess. I mean, she's pretty outrageous. Or she could just throw him into space or something like that. And I doubt he could survive out there. And then, you know, Metal Knight, the full potential of him could probably take care of the evil natural water as well. And then, I don't think Pig God could eat him, because he could barely even eat the little heart of him. But other than that, it's not looking good for the rest of the S-Class. He's pretty overpowered. Tygo G asks, what do you think about Obito versus Saitama? If Obito were to drop Saitama in another dimension and left him there to starve to death, then technically Obito would beat Saitama if he had a good strategy. In theory, I guess he could do this, but I don't think, if we're really realistically looking at this, I don't think Obito could pull Saitama into the Kamui dimension. He's just, that doesn't have enough power to pull somebody like Saitama into it, and he probably wouldn't even allow Obito to have the chance to do it. I mean, of course, the Kamui suck thing would catch him off guard, but I just don't think it has enough power to do that. But in this situation, he does pull him in. So Saitama is in the Kamui dimension. How does he get out? Well, we could just speculate that given the way that the Kamui works, how like the intangible part of Obito goes into like the parallel dimension, but the other half of him stays in our actual reality, we can assume that like the Kamui dimension is like parallel to our own. It's not like you're going somewhere far off. You're kind of like there, but you're not. So he's not too far away. He's kind of still in our own reality, just in a different dimension. We could just speculate that maybe Saitama can like forcibly punch his way out or do something to break through. I mean, if Boo can like scream himself out of the hyperbolic time chamber / room spirited time, I mean, why can't Saitama do something like that? I mean, maybe not scream, but maybe like serious punch or something like that. I mean, I know we're just speculating and we haven't really seen Saitama do anything like that, but I think we will eventually once he starts fighting God. We're going to see some stuff like that in my opinion, but if he can't, then yeah, I guess Obito wins via death, starvation, or just being trapped in the Kamui dimension. But I think more or less, if I were to put money on it, Saitama would be able to forcibly get himself out of there. But if he were actually fighting Obito, I don't even think he would get pulled in the Kamui dimension in the first place. And last but not least, I am a V, so how do I get S as voice as you so I can seduce a chick? I think with a voice like yours, if I whispered something R-rated into the girl's ear, she would definitely get drenched. So Tygo, thank you for the compliment. Voices are genetic, but you can improve your own. But if you would like to lose your V card, I can give you some serious advice. It's going to be very difficult, maybe the most difficult thing you've ever had to do, but here's the key. Stop pleasuring yourself and stop watching adult videos. That's it. If you could do both of these things indefinitely, I promise you, you will lose your V card. Wolfpup asks, Konnichiwa, Shonen Okie Dokie. If you don't mind me asking, what is your favorite TV brand? I really like Samsung TVs. They seem to treat me well, and I think they make good products. I like their phones too. Internet, well, I don't really have a choice with that. I mean, the only thing that I can really get that's good is like Comcast. So I guess Comcast Xfinity. My drink, believe it or not, water. I'm pretty vanilla. I mean, I forced myself to kind of like water, and it's easily become my favorite instrument. So I'm not really musically inclined, but if I could play an instrument, it would definitely be a guitar. So that's probably my favorite. Favorite sea animal? I just like a standard shark. Maybe like a great white shark. You know, I'm kind of like basic when it comes to that stuff. Favorite bird? Yeah, the basicness is going to continue. I just like eagles. I think they're really cool. Very imposing. They like represent power. And they're American, so come on. Toilet paper? Charmin. Pretty solid. In more ways than one. Favorite death metal? Pig squealing band. So I do like the death metal. I do like heavy music and stuff like that. But as for the pig squealing, I've kind of aged out of that. I really appreciated it during its prime, like when I was in middle school. So Job for a Cowboy, they were pretty good at doing that stuff. And I really enjoyed them. But I don't even know if that's still around anymore, honestly. Oh, and your favorite Pokemon, and what would your Pokemon's disaster level be? It's hard to say. There's so many great ones, but I really like Shiny Greninja and Shiny Rayquaza. But if like Greninja ate a monster cell, he would probably be like Demon, given his abilities and how powerful in theory he would become from eating a monster cell. Oh, and I have Time Warner Cable and a Sony TV. I was gonna say I was gonna say Sony after Samsung, but I just really trust Samsung, so I usually go with them. But Sony makes great equipment and stuff like that too. Okie my first question is, how strong would Ashura be if he joined the Monster Association? And do you think his disaster level could be around Dragon or Executive if Girogiro saw him in action? So Ashura is the first generation of the Kishin, and Great Old One, whose affinity to madness resides in madness of fear, born as Death's oldest son, and fragmentating his fear in order for Death to be god of absolute order. He formerly served as a member of the 8 Shinigami Legions as its strongest member until he betrayed the group and became a Kishin. When he's fighting, his body is capable of repelling everything, even the likes of poison or dye. He also possesses superb regeneration that allows him to regenerate body parts such as an arm. He also has special abilities like Madness of Fear. It's kind of like Genjutsu in Naruto universe, causing them to go insane or, in some cases, cause horrific illusions and hallucination, which will result in the person unknowingly commit the S-word. Okay, so I checked out those videos that you sent me, and I never really saw this series before, Soul Eater. It looks pretty interesting. And it's funny that you do mention Naruto, because it kind of reminded me of that, at least when he starts doing like hand seals kind of stuff, and we see those other seals come up. So I was impressed by this dude. He's very powerful, for sure, especially if we're coming over to the One Punch Man world. He has great durability, and his other abilities, like the energy stuff that he can do, and his resistance to things, very impressive. And I think he's for sure dragon level. And if Girogiro saw him, he would definitely be a cadre, for sure. But I don't think he's like a high dragon. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but his speed, that's always like the defining thing with me. His speed didn't really strike me as anything like above, or like what above like a normal dragon would be, like pushing him to like high dragon or anything like that. Maybe he's a mid dragon. His regeneration, his durability is pretty impressive, and the abilities that he has, like those ethereal supernatural abilities, are pretty significant even in the world of One Punch Man. But being a high dragon, you really need to impress me even more than that. Now, maybe I'm underselling this guy, because granted, I've only seen the YouTube videos that you've sent me and the information you provided here, but just for right now, I think he's like a solid mid to low dragon for sure, and would definitely be cadre level. I mean, most definitely. I think he's probably more powerful than Homeless Emperor, probably, right? I mean, we haven't seen the full potential of him in the manga yet, but he just seems to be around that level. And my last question is, what class/rank disaster level would you give the Exy Blizzard of Hell Fubuki if you had to sleep with her? Thanks a million. Hey, thank you a million, Wolf Pup. You know I love you, my friend. The #1 patron. So, well, if we're going off of if I had to do that with her, well, just given her aesthetics and the way that she looks, and especially for an anime thotty, she's probably like a 10, right? So she'd be above Dragon, approaching God in that territory, but given her sleeping quality and ability, it's hard to say. So I've learned over my career with the ladies that you can't really judge a book by its cover. And I know that's like an old thing, and it kind of goes without saying with most people, but specifically them, like the girls that are really attractive and like high maintenance and whatnot, you think they'd be exceptional or really good in that department, but so I find that they're kind of lackluster, and it's usually the girls that you wouldn't expect to be really good in the sleeping department are actually really good, and they're really more aggressive and more willing to engage in that on like a daily and more consistent basis. Like the girls that are less maintenance, not high maintenance, and are like nerdy or geeky and probably don't wear as much makeup and don't have as much of a fashion interest as they do, those are the ones that are awesome, which is interesting. I didn't really think it would be that way, but given that Fubuki is kind of like the middle ground kind of, I mean, she does hold herself in extremely high regard. She does have a very inflated sense of self-worth, but she is kind of modest at the same time, so maybe she'd be like a demon in that department. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 77 of my amazing, ultra cool patrons, guys. I really do love you so much, and you are one of the main positives in my life, and I can't thank you enough for all of your support. And if you would like to be in next week's Q&A, just simply check out my Patreon. The $5 tier will give you access to this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. See you in the next one.